Commander Aaron Vale adjusted the controls of his starship, the Horizon's Edge, as it glided silently through the cold expanse of the Zephyr system. Stars streaked past the viewport and distant nebulae glowed softly against the blackness. It was meant to be a routine mission, a simple patrol to check the outer borders of the Human Alliance's trade route. But routine often hid danger, and Aaron had learned long ago that complacency was the first step toward disaster. "Scanners are clear, Commander," said Lieutenant Mara Kellen, her voice calm but precise. She sat beside him at the navigation console, fingers dancing across the holographic display. "Nothing but empty space for the next 50,000 kilometers." Aaron nodded. "Good. Let's hope it stays that way. I'd like to keep this trip boring for a while." He smiled faintly, though he knew that in space, boring was as close to safety as one could get. The calm of the patrol was broken suddenly by an alert ping, sharp and urgent. The ship shook slightly as the sensors detected a disturbance, a fast-moving object approaching from the outer rim of the system. "Commander, I'm picking up a distress signal. It's unusual." "Not human," Mara said, her brow furrowing. Aaron leaned forward, focusing on the holographic display. A small vessel appeared on the screen, caught in a field of energy blasts. The hull was alien, smooth and iridescent, shaped in a way that made it look almost alive. Bright flashes of light erupted around it, evidence of weapons hitting its shields. "Looks like trouble," Aaron muttered. He tapped a few commands, redirecting the Horizon's Edge's trajectory. "Prepare for engagement. Let's see if we can help without getting ourselves fried." Mara's eyes widened. "Commander, it's a royal vessel." "That's impossible. The Empress doesn't travel outside the capital without a full fleet." Aaron didn't answer immediately. Instead, he focused on the approaching danger. The vessel's shields were failing, sparks of energy rippling across its surface. Time to act. He activated the ship's thrusters and maneuvered to intercept the attackers. Human ships rarely fought Zephyrian raiders. Most skirmishes were against other human factions. But Aaron knew that principles mattered, even when protocol was unclear. Protecting life was always the first priority. The moment the Horizon's Edge came into range, the raiders noticed the human ship. Energy beams from the alien craft lashed out, slicing through the void. Aaron's ship shook under the impact and alarms blared. "Hold steady," he shouted, gripping the controls. "Engage shields at maximum. Target the attackers' propulsion systems, not their hulls." Mara nodded, quickly recalculating their targeting sequence. Within moments, the human ship's energy beam struck the raiders' engines, causing one vessel to spin uncontrollably before exploding silently in the void. But then, a bright flare lit up the screen. The alien vessel shuddered violently. Mara gasped. "Commander, their shields are down. The princess, she's exposed." Aaron's stomach tightened. He had seen this situation countless times in simulations, but now it was real. The energy blast hurtling toward the vessel could destroy it in seconds. There was only one choice: brace for shield deployment, he shouted. His fingers moved rapidly over the console. The experimental energy shield he had been testing, fragile but powerful, flared into existence around the Zephyrian vessel. The blast hit. A shockwave of energy rattled the Horizon's Edge, throwing Aaron and Mara against their harnesses. The shield absorbed the brunt, but cracks appeared instantly, lightning-like fractures of pure energy racing across its surface. Shield integrity falling fast. Mara screamed, "I know!" Aaron gritted his teeth. "Hold it together." The shield groaned, sparks flying. Then, with a blinding flash, it shattered completely. Aaron was thrown back, crashing against the console. Pain shot through his arm, but he ignored it. The vessel was safe, its hull battered but intact, and the princess had survived. Silence fell for a moment, broken only by the hiss of the damaged systems. Aaron struggled to his feet, breathing hard. The raiders, seeing their prize escape, retreated into the blackness of space, leaving destruction behind. "Are you all right, Commander?" Mara asked, helping him to the navigation panel. Aaron nodded weakly. "I've been better. But the important thing is, she's alive." The alien vessel slowly stabilized. From the viewport, Aaron could see a figure moving inside, framed by soft alien light. Her form was graceful, her posture regal. She wore clothing that shimmered like the surface of a living jewel. Aaron realized with awe that he had just saved the life of a Zephyrian princess. The vessel docked with the human ship under Aaron's careful guidance. The door opened and a group of guards stepped out, their armor sleek and organic. unlike anything Aaron had ever seen. Behind them, the princess moved forward, her expression a mixture of shock, relief, and something he could not immediately read. "You saved me," she said in a voice that was musical yet firm. Her large eyes studied him carefully. "You risked yourself for me." Aaron straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. "It was my duty. Anyone in my place would have done the same." She shook her head slightly. "No human has ever done such a thing for a Zephyrian before." "You are remarkable." Aaron winced at the compliment. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. They were seen as clever, adaptable, but rarely as heroes to alien races. Yet here he was, standing before royalty, and the words seemed to carry the weight of an entire species' recognition. The guards escorted him and Mara to a chamber aboard the alien vessel. It was beautiful beyond words. Walls that seemed to breathe, lights that shifted color with mood, and furniture that flowed like liquid metal. The princess moved beside him, guiding him gently. "You must be tired," she said. "You should rest." Aaron allowed himself to be led to a reclining seat, though his mind raced. The thought of returning home seemed distant, almost trivial now. He had crossed a threshold into a world far more complex and beautiful than anything he had imagined. Moments later, the vessel's door opened again. This time an older figure entered, regal, commanding, and impossibly elegant. Empress Seraphine, mother of the princess, observed him with sharp, intelligent eyes. "You are the human who saved my daughter," she said, her tone firm but not unkind. "Commander Vale, your actions have not gone unnoticed." Aaron bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it was necessary. Her life was in danger." The Empress nodded slowly. "Courage is rare, and yet you displayed it freely. I have watched countless beings seek to impress, to manipulate, to gain favor. You risked yourself without thought for reward. That is extraordinary." Aaron's heart raced. He had faced countless enemies in his career, fought wars, navigated treacherous negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for the weight of those words. Recognition from the Zephyrian Empress was not merely personal. It carried political and cultural significance beyond his understanding. "You will be honored for this," the Empress continued. "Not simply with thanks, but with something more." "Binding," Aaron frowned. "Binding? I don't understand, Your Majesty." "You saved a life that is the future of my people," she said. "In our culture, such acts are recognized in ways that are rare for outsiders. You may be granted citizenship among us, and the privileges that come with it." Aaron blinked. The thought was staggering. Citizenship of an alien world, recognition by royalty. This was far beyond any medal or commendation he had ever imagined. The princess stepped closer, her hand brushing against his. "You've changed everything, Commander. For me and perhaps for your people as well." Aaron shook his head, still struggling to process the enormity of what had happened. "I was only doing my duty. I don't know if I deserve anything more." The Empress smiled faintly, a rare expression of warmth. "Sometimes the measure of a person is revealed in moments of choice, not reward. You have chosen well. Rest now. We will speak more when your strength returns." As Aaron leaned back, exhaustion finally claiming him, he felt a mixture of relief, pride, and awe. He had faced a situation that few humans ever could, and he had emerged alive. But more importantly, he had stepped into a world entirely different from his own, one filled with beauty, danger, and rules he had yet to understand. Looking out at the stars through the alien viewport, Aaron realized that his life had changed forever. Saving the princess had been only the beginning. What awaited him in the halls of Zephyrian power, among their people and culture, was something he could not yet imagine. But he knew one thing for certain: he would face it with courage. And somewhere deep in his mind, he wondered, how would he ever live up to the expectations of a world that had already placed so much on his shoulders? The chamber lights dimmed as Aaron drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep. Outside, the stars of the Zephyr system glimmered, silent witnesses to a human hero stepping into a story far greater than any he had known. Aaron awoke slowly, the soft light of the Zephyrian vessel washing over him. The injuries from the battle still ached, but he felt a strange calm here, unlike anything he had experienced on his own ship. Beside him, Princess Lyra stood quietly, her eyes focused on him with concern and curiosity. "You are awake," she said softly. "I thought you might sleep longer. The battle was exhausting." Aaron nodded, trying to sit upright. though the stiffness in his muscles reminded him that he was far from fully recovered. "I'm fine," he said, though the words were less certain than he would have liked. "How are you?" Lyra smiled faintly, but her expression was serious. "Better, thanks to you. Your shield saved my life. I cannot forget that." Aaron felt a weight in his chest. He had faced death many times, but hearing the gratitude of someone whose life depended on him made every risk feel real, and yet worthwhile. "It was my duty. Anyone would have done the same," he said. "You underestimate humanity," Lyra replied, her voice carrying a tone of both amusement and admiration. "Most outsiders would have hesitated. You did not. That is rare." Before Aaron could respond, the doors to the chamber opened. A group of Zephyrian attendants entered, moving gracefully in silence. Behind them walked Empress Seraphine, her presence commanding yet elegant. She approached Aaron slowly, studying him as if weighing every detail of his being. "You have done a remarkable thing," she said, her voice steady but carrying authority. "You have saved my daughter. That is not a small matter." Aaron inclined his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, I did what I could. I would do it again if necessary." The Empress's eyes softened slightly. "Courage without consideration is reckless. Courage with wisdom is rare. You have both." She gestured to the attendants. "Prepare him. He will need to participate in the court soon. The customs are demanding, but it is time he learns them." Aaron felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. Court customs? He had faced raiders, pirates, and hostile fleets, but navigating alien rituals was an entirely different challenge. He nodded, trusting in Lyra's guidance. Over the next hours, Aaron was introduced to Zephyrian culture in ways that challenged everything he knew. The attendants taught him to move gracefully in the ceremonial halls, to bow and shift his posture according to subtle cues, and to speak in the tone that conveyed respect without subservience. "You are stiff," Lyra observed, guiding him through a series of movements that seemed more like dance than etiquette. "Humans are rigid, I see. You must learn to flow, to feel the rhythm of the room. The court notices everything: gesture, gaze, even breath." Aaron struggled, stumbling over steps and almost colliding with a hovering console that projected holographic images of Zephyrian history. He felt foolish, but Lyra laughed softly, a sound that lifted some of his embarrassment. "It is not easy," she admitted. "Even some of my own kind struggle with these customs at first. But you have determination. That will carry you far." As days passed, Aaron found himself learning more than just movements and words. He began to understand the Zephyrian way of thinking, their sense of honor, their emphasis on unity and duty, their belief that bravery was not measured by victory alone, but by willingness to act for others. He realized how different this culture was from his own, yet how much he respected it. One morning, the Empress summoned Aaron to a grand chamber filled with shimmering light. The walls glowed with soft colors, shifting with the mood of the occupants. Lyra followed closely behind, her presence a steady comfort. "Commander Vale," the Empress began, "today you will witness a ceremony that few outsiders ever see. It is a ritual of recognition, performed for those whose deeds merit the highest honor." Aaron's pulse quickened. "Recognition for me?" he asked, uncertain how to respond. Seraphine nodded. "Yes. You have saved my daughter, and through that act you have demonstrated qualities that we value above all else: courage, loyalty, and selflessness. These are the traits of a true citizen of Zephyria." Aaron tried to keep his composure, but the weight of the words made him feel both proud and nervous. Citizenship? Recognition? These were concepts far beyond his usual scope. The ceremony began. Aaron followed Lyra through corridors lined with alien architecture that seemed alive, the walls pulsing faintly with bioluminescent patterns. Guards and officials watched silently as he passed, their gazes sharp yet not hostile. At the central chamber, a large platform shimmered in the middle of the room. Seraphine stood upon it, her presence commanding attention. She spoke in the Zephyrian language, and Lyra translated softly for Aaron. "You are here because your actions have proven your worth. But worth alone is not enough. You must demonstrate understanding, respect, and the willingness to embrace our ways. Only then will recognition be complete." Aaron nodded. "I understand," he said, feeling the weight of responsibility in every word. The ritual was not violent, but it was challenging. He was asked to perform a series of tests that combined intellect, empathy, and courage. First, he was presented with a simulation of a conflict scenario where he had to make decisions under pressure, balancing lives and outcomes. He approached it with care, considering not only strategy but the value of each life involved. Next, he was tested in a demonstration of cultural understanding. He had to read subtle cues from the room, gestures from officials, and reactions of holographic participants to navigate a complex social interaction. Here, Lyra's guidance proved invaluable. She whispered hints and reassured him when he faltered. Finally, there was a test of courage, a symbolic challenge in which Aaron entered a chamber filled with holographic hazards. Though unreal, the experience simulated real danger, forcing him to remain calm, focused, and decisive. He moved through the chamber, relying on both human instinct and the lessons Lyra had taught him. When he emerged, the room was silent for a moment. Then Empress Seraphine stepped forward. Her eyes met his, and for a brief instant Aaron felt as if she was looking into the very core of his being. "You have succeeded," she said, "not because you are human, but because you understand what it means to be honorable. That understanding transcends species. You are ready to be recognized." Lyra smiled at him, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. "You did well," she said. "I knew you could." Aaron felt a surge of relief and pride. He had faced alien scrutiny, cultural barriers, and rigorous tests, and he had not failed. More importantly, he felt a connection to this world, to its people, and to the princess who had trusted him with her life. Over the following days, Aaron began to experience court life more fully. He attended gatherings, participated in discussions with scholars and diplomats, and learned the intricate politics of Zephyria. Some officials were skeptical of a human being given such privileges, and whispers followed him in corridors. But he remained steadfast, relying on integrity and the guidance of Lyra to navigate these challenges. One evening, as Aaron practiced ceremonial movements in a quiet chamber, Lyra approached him with a soft smile. "You are doing well," she said. "But do not forget, it is not just skill that earns respect. It is character. Remember that." Aaron nodded. "I will. Thank you, Lyra, for guiding me, for everything." She laughed softly, a melodic sound that seemed to fill the room. "You are stubborn, Commander, but in the best way." Their bond deepened with each passing day. Aaron found himself admiring Lyra not only for her courage but for her intelligence, her grace, and her subtle sense of humor. She, in turn, seemed to appreciate his determination, his loyalty, and the way he approached challenges with both bravery and thoughtfulness. As the days turned into weeks, Aaron's understanding of Zephyrian culture grew. He began to anticipate customs, to move with grace, to speak with measured tone, and to respect the unspoken rules of the court. Yet he never lost the core of who he was, a human capable of quick thinking, empathy, and courage. The culmination of this period of learning came with a private meeting with Empress Seraphine. She observed him quietly, her gaze sharp. "You have adapted well," she said. "You have not only survived our tests, but you have embraced our culture with respect and integrity. This is no small achievement. You are ready to take your place among our people, should you choose to accept it." Aaron swallowed, the enormity of her words settling on him. I will do my best, Your Majesty. I want to learn, to serve and to honor the trust you have placed in me." Seraphine nodded, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Good. Then the next steps will be formal. Citizenship will be granted, and the court will recognize your deeds. Prepare yourself, Commander Vale. Your journey has only just begun." As Aaron left the chamber, Lyra by his side, he felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The path ahead was unknown, filled with challenges, customs, and responsibilities beyond anything he had faced on Earth or in human space. Yet he felt ready. For the first time, he realized that heroism was not only about saving lives in battle, but also about understanding, respect, and the courage to embrace a world unlike his own. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning, not just of his adventure in Zephyria, but of a story that could change the lives of humans and Zephyrians alike. Aaron had grown more comfortable moving through the halls of the Zephyrian palace, yet each day brought new lessons and unexpected challenges. The grandeur of the place never ceased to amaze him. The walls seemed alive, softly pulsing with light, and the air carried a faint hum almost like a heartbeat. Even the floors seemed to respond subtly to those walking upon them, shifting in color or texture as if sensing presence and mood. Yet despite the beauty, not all in the court welcomed him. Whispers followed him through corridors, especially from older Zephyrian officials who believed no human should receive such honor. A human among us? Some muttered. Unthinkable. Aaron noticed it but did not allow it to disturb him. He had faced doubt before, and he had learned that actions spoke louder than words. Still, he knew he would have to prove himself not only in courage but in intelligence, diplomacy, and understanding of Zephyrian culture. Princess Lyra walked beside him one morning as he practiced ceremonial movements in a sunlit hall. Her presence was both calming and grounding. "Do not worry about them," she said. "Many in the court will resist change, but the Empress sees clearly. Your actions have weight and time will show your worth." Aaron nodded. "I hope so. I don't want to fail. Not here. Not for you. Not for anyone who trusted me." Lyra's smile was gentle. "Then you will not. You have the heart of a true ally. That is what matters most." That afternoon, Aaron was called to participate in what the Empress described as a trial of understanding. It was a gathering of Zephyrian leaders, scholars, and military officers, designed to test his judgment, cultural awareness, and ability to navigate complex social situations. When he entered the chamber, the room was unlike anything he had ever seen. Officials hovered on small platforms that allowed them to move fluidly around the space. Holographic displays projected intricate maps, historical events, and scenarios for discussion. Every detail seemed alive, every gesture meaningful. "Commander Vale," the Empress said, her voice carrying effortlessly throughout the chamber. "Today you will demonstrate not only courage but comprehension of our ways. You will engage with the Council, answer their questions, and respond to simulations that test your decision-making." Aaron felt a surge of nerves, but he steadied himself. He had faced countless crises in battle. He could handle this as well. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, acknowledging each member of the Council with a respectful nod. The first scenario involved a simulated threat to a Zephyrian colony. Aaron had to make decisions about resource allocation, evacuation priorities, and defensive strategies. The holograms projected images of Zephyrian citizens, families, and children, making the scenario feel frighteningly real. He paused to assess the situation, recalling both his human instincts and lessons from Lyra. He prioritized protection of civilians first, deploying defensive measures in a way that minimized risk to lives. At the same time, he organized patrols to counter the threat, balancing caution with decisiveness. When the simulation concluded, a panel of scholars discussed his choices. Some nodded with approval, impressed by his thoughtful and strategic approach. Others whispered criticisms, arguing that a human could not understand Zephyrian priorities. Aaron remained calm, explaining his reasoning and showing empathy for all affected. Next, he faced a cultural challenge. Members of the court presented him with scenarios requiring understanding of unspoken social cues. A subtle shift in posture, a glance, a tone of voice, all could change the meaning of words spoken. Aaron had to navigate delicate conversations, balancing honesty with tact, human bluntness with Zephyrian subtlety. He stumbled at first, misreading a few cues, and felt the weight of judgment pressing down on him. Yet with each correction, guidance from Lyra, and careful observation, he improved. By the end, even the skeptics leaned forward slightly, acknowledging his growing awareness and adaptability. Finally, there was a personal test. Aaron was presented with a chamber filled with holographic representations of his past decisions, both successes and failures. The test was designed to measure integrity, humility, and self-awareness. He had to face mistakes he had made, some minor, some serious, and explain how he would respond differently. Standing in the center of the chamber, Aaron reflected deeply. He admitted his errors openly, demonstrating both humility and determination to learn. The holographic images seemed to shift, responding to his sincerity, and a quiet murmur ran through the chamber. Even those who had doubted him could not ignore the courage it took to face one's own failings with honesty. After hours of challenges, the Empress finally spoke. "Commander Vale, you have shown not only courage but understanding, integrity, and respect for Zephyrian culture. This is rare among outsiders. You have earned the acknowledgement of this council, though some may still resist. Time will show them the value of your presence." Aaron bowed, feeling both relief and pride. He had succeeded, yet he knew this was only part of the journey. Acceptance among the Zephyrians would take more than skill. It would take patience, perseverance, and continuous demonstration of his character. In the days that followed, Aaron continued to navigate court life. He attended formal banquets, discussions on trade and security, and even scholarly debates on Zephyrian history and philosophy. Each encounter tested him in new ways, requiring him to think quickly, respond wisely, and act with integrity. Despite the challenges, he found moments of joy. He and Lyra spent time together exploring sections of the palace usually off-limits to outsiders. They watched the bioluminescent gardens, practiced ceremonial dances, and shared stories of Earth and Zephyria. Lyra told him about her childhood, about the responsibilities she carried even as a princess and the expectations of her people. Aaron shared tales of human life, of Earth's struggles and triumphs, and of his desire to make a difference. Through these conversations, their bond grew stronger. Aaron admired Lyra's courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment to her people. She appreciated his bravery, his quick thinking, and his willingness to understand a culture so different from his own. Together, they began to bridge the gap between human and Zephyrian perspectives. However, not all in the court welcomed this growing closeness. Certain conservative officials viewed the friendship with suspicion, fearing that a human could influence the princess in ways that might destabilize tradition. Whispers of doubt followed them, and Aaron had to remain vigilant, careful not to offend while staying true to himself. One afternoon, as Aaron practiced ceremonial protocols, an older counselor approached him. His tone was sharp, almost confrontational. "Human, you have shown courage, yes. But do you truly understand the weight of your actions? Saving the princess is one thing, but integrating fully into Zephyrian society requires more than bravery. Can you meet the expectations of our people consistently?" Aaron met the man's gaze steadily. "I understand it will take time. I am willing to learn, to adapt, and to act with integrity in all situations. My goal is to honor the trust placed in me, not to impress. I will do what is necessary for your people and for the princess." The counselor studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are more capable than I thought. Time will tell." Lyra watched from nearby, her expression unreadable, but when she met Aaron's eyes later, there was a quiet acknowledgement of his progress. "You are earning respect, Aaron. Not everyone will accept it immediately, but you are moving forward. That is what matters." As weeks passed, Aaron's reputation grew. He was known for his decisiveness, empathy, and fairness. Even skeptics began to acknowledge that the human was more than just a visitor. He was a participant, a potential ally, and perhaps a bridge between worlds. One evening, the Empress summoned him for a private audience. Aaron entered the chamber, the soft lights casting gentle shadows across the walls. Lyra followed briefly, then stepped aside, leaving him alone with her mother. "You have done well, Commander Vale," the Empress said. "You have faced skepticism, navigated complex customs, and demonstrated courage, intelligence, and humility. Few outsiders have ever accomplished what you have." Aaron inclined his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, I only acted as I felt was right." "I am honored by your recognition." Seraphine studied him intently. "There are still challenges ahead. Not all in the court will welcome a human's influence, and you will face scrutiny at every turn. But your actions have shown that you are capable. The next step will solidify your place among us, citizenship and formal recognition." Aaron felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "I will do everything necessary to honor your trust," he said sincerely. The Empress nodded. "Good. Remember, Aaron Vale, courage alone is not enough. Wisdom, patience, and understanding are equally important. If you continue on this path, you will not only be accepted, but you will also shape the future of Zephyria and the relationship between our peoples." As Aaron left the chamber, he felt a deep sense of purpose. The journey had been difficult, filled with tests, doubts, and challenges, but he had proven himself. More importantly, he had found a connection to this world, its people, and Princess Lyra, a connection that was growing stronger each day. Walking through the palace halls, Aaron reflected on how far he had come. From a routine patrol in human space to saving a princess and navigating. Aaron stood before the tall mirrors of the Zephyrian palace, his ceremonial armor shining under the golden light of the crystal lamps. The armor was not heavy like the suits he had worn in human service. It was thin, elegant, and filled with glowing lines of energy. The patterns moved slowly across the surface like flowing rivers of silver and blue. The palace attendants had spent hours fitting it on him, explaining every detail, every gesture of respect that would be expected of him during the ceremony. He had practiced bowing, speaking the right words and standing still even when the whole court stared at him. He breathed deeply and tried to calm himself. It was not fear of combat this time. He had faced death many times, but this was different. He was about to stand in front of thousands of Zephyrians, in front of nobles, generals, scholars, and the Empress herself. He was a human among aliens carrying their highest honor. He could not afford to stumble. The doors opened with a low hum, and 2 guards of the Empress entered. They bowed their tall heads, their golden crests shining. One of them spoke in a clear voice. "Commander Aaron Vale, the Empress calls you to the Hall of Stars." Aaron nodded and followed them. The hallway stretched forward like an endless tunnel of light. The walls were covered with living crystal that shifted in colors as he walked past. His steps echoed softly. He remembered Princess Lyra's words the night before, when she had visited him to encourage him. She had told him not to think of himself as an outsider, but as someone who had earned his place. "You saved me. You stood against fire when even our warriors hesitated. Today you only need to be yourself," she had said with a smile. He held on to that memory as the guards led him into the massive hall. The Hall of Stars was unlike anything he had seen before. The ceiling was transparent, opening directly into the sky of Zifar. From inside, it felt like standing under a sea of endless stars, their light falling gently over everyone below. The crowd was large. Nobles wore robes of living fabric that shimmered like water. Soldiers stood in perfect rows, their spears glowing faintly. Musicians played soft, strange instruments that echoed like distant bells. At the far end of the hall sat Empress Seraphine on a throne that looked as if it had been carved from starlight itself. She wore a crown of glowing crystal, and her presence filled the room with quiet power. Beside her stood Princess Lyra, wearing a silver dress that caught the starlight. Her eyes found Aaron at once, and she gave him a small, encouraging nod. The guard stepped aside, and Aaron walked forward alone. Every step felt heavy with meaning. The hall was silent except for the sound of music and his own footsteps. When he reached the foot of the stairs that led up to the throne, he bowed as he had been taught. The Empress raised her hand and the music stopped. Her voice filled the air, smooth and commanding. "Today we honor a life saved, a shield broken, and courage beyond worlds. Commander Aaron Vale of Humanity, step forward." Aaron climbed the steps, his heart beating fast. He knelt before the throne. The Empress held a staff of light and she touched it gently to his shoulder. "By the laws of Zephyr, by the witness of our people, and by the gratitude of the royal line, I grant you citizenship of our empire. You shall walk among us not as stranger but as kin. Rise, Aaron Vale, citizen of Zephyr." The hall erupted with sound. Music rose, cheers filled the air, and thousands of voices called his name. Aaron stood slowly, feeling a rush of pride and disbelief. The Empress smiled at him, and Princess Lyra's eyes shone with joy. But before the music could settle, the crystal walls of the hall trembled. A sharp alarm rang through the palace. Soldiers tensed and the crowd turned in fear. A commander rushed into the hall, his voice loud and urgent. "Raiders! They have breached the outer defenses. They are inside the city." The celebration froze. Empress Seraphine stood quickly, her face turning serious. She raised her staff and orders flew across the hall. Guards moved to protect the royal family. Panic spread through the crowd. Aaron felt his body move before his mind had caught up. He rushed to the Empress and Princess Lyra. "We must move you to safety," he said firmly. But Lyra shook her head. "No, the people will panic if they see us flee. We must stand." Aaron looked into her eyes and saw the same courage he had seen when she had fought beside him in training. She was not a fragile princess hiding behind guards. She was a leader in her own right. He nodded slowly. "Then we fight together." The raiders stormed into the hall. Their weapons fired blasts of red energy, striking the walls and the floor. The nobles screamed and tried to run. Guards met the raiders with glowing spears, but the attackers were fierce and desperate. They had slipped past the city defenses using hidden cloaking devices, and now they sought to take revenge for their earlier defeat. Aaron grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. It was a spear of pure energy, heavier than any rifle he had carried, but it responded to his grip as if alive. He spun it and charged forward. His training as a soldier took over. He struck one raider across the chest, sending the alien sprawling to the ground. He blocked another blast. the spear's energy shield absorbing the hit. Lyra stood beside him, holding a blade of crystal. Her movements were fast and graceful, striking with precision. Together they moved through the chaos, covering each other's backs. The Empress remained at the throne, her staff glowing with protective light that shielded the civilians fleeing the hall. Her calm presence gave strength to her people. Aaron fought harder, knowing every second mattered. The raiders pushed forward, more entering the hall. Aaron shouted to the Zephyrian commander, "We must cut them off before they reach the Empress." The commander nodded and gave quick orders. Soldiers formed lines, pushing the attackers back. Aaron spotted the raider leader, a tall figure in dark armor, barking commands in a harsh tongue. Aaron knew that if he could take down the leader, the others might falter. He pointed with his spear. "Lyra, with me." They fought their way to the leader. The raider struck with brutal force, his weapon clashing against Aaron's spear. The impact sent shocks through his arms, but he held firm. Lyra attacked from the side, forcing the leader to defend himself against two fighters. The duel was fierce, sparks flying, weapons clashing again and again. Aaron's shield was already gone, destroyed in the first battle when he saved Lyra. He had nothing but his courage and the spear in his hands. He felt the strain, but he also felt something else. The trust of Lyra fighting beside him, the gaze of the Empress watching from the throne, and the hope of the Zephyrian people. At last, with a burst of strength, Aaron disarmed the leader. Knocking his weapon across the hall, Lyra struck with her blade, forcing the raider to his knees. Aaron pointed the spear at his chest. The hall grew silent. The raiders froze, their leader captured. Aaron shouted to them, "It's over. Lay down your weapons." One by one, the raiders dropped their arms. Guards rushed to secure them. The battle was finished. The hall was damaged, smoke rising from the floor, but the Empress still stood tall, her people safe. The crowd began to cheer again, this time louder than before. They had seen a human fight side by side with their princess to defend their world. They had seen courage, loyalty, and honor. Empress Seraphine stepped forward, her voice carrying above the noise. "Today we have seen not only a hero, but a protector who risked all without thought of himself. He is more than citizen. He is more than guest. He is family." She turned to Aaron, her eyes glowing softly. "You saved my daughter once with your shield. Today you saved her again with your life. I cannot offer you riches greater than what you already hold, but I can offer you the highest bond our people know." The hall grew quiet again. The Empress looked to Lyra, then back to Aaron. "You shall not only be our citizen. You shall be my son and the husband of my daughter. If both your hearts agree, let this union stand as a bridge between our worlds." Aaron froze, his mind racing. The words of the Empress echoed in his ears. He looked at Lyra. She did not look surprised. Her eyes were calm, her lips curved into a gentle smile. She stepped closer and whispered softly, "You saved me twice, Aaron, and you never asked for anything in return. But I will give you my trust, my hand, and my future." Aaron felt his chest tighten. He had come here as a soldier, ready to die for duty. He had broken his shield, spilled his blood, and risked everything. Now he was being given something greater than any medal, greater than any rank. The hall erupted into cheers again. Nobles and soldiers alike bowed their heads in respect. The Empress lifted her staff high. "Let it be known. A wedding shall unite us and a new era shall begin." Aaron stood there, breathing hard, feeling both overwhelmed and deeply moved. He looked at Lyra, and for the first time since he had left Earth, he felt truly at home. The celebration continued late into the night, with music, dancing, and light filling the palace once again. The danger had passed, but something new had begun. Aaron knew that tomorrow his life would change forever. He was no longer just a visitor in an alien world. He was part of it, bound to its people, its Empress, and its princess. And for the first time in a long time, he welcomed that future with all his heart. The morning sun of Zephyr rose slowly, casting a gentle golden light across the palace. Aaron stood on the balcony of his chamber, taking in the view of the city below. The streets glimmered with light and citizens moved about, many already aware of the events of the previous day. Word had spread quickly. The human who had saved the princess twice was now to be formally recognized and united in marriage with her. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of awe, pride, and nervous anticipation. This was not a battle or a mission. This was a life-changing moment in a world far from the stars he had known as a soldier. He looked over at the ceremonial armor and attire that had been prepared for him. It was simpler than yesterday's battle outfit, but still elegant, glowing faintly with energy lines. Every detail had meaning, every color a symbol of honor and unity. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Princess Lyra stood there, dressed in a flowing gown that shimmered like liquid silver, the soft light catching every curve and fold of the fabric. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and her eyes shone with calm joy. She smiled gently at him. "You look nervous," she said softly. "I am," Aaron admitted, "not afraid of what's happening, but it's also real. I don't want to make a mistake." Lyra stepped closer, placing her hand lightly on his arm. "Then remember what I told you. Be yourself. Courage, honesty, and respect, that is all that matters. The rest will follow." Aaron nodded, feeling reassured. He had faced impossible odds, fought raiders, survived battles, and learned a culture far more complex than any human politics. Yet now it was not weapons or shields that mattered. It was trust, love, and honor. The palace hall was prepared for the ceremony. The walls glowed softly with a bioluminescent light that shifted with the mood of the crowd. Thousands of citizens, nobles, and officials had gathered, each standing in orderly lines, their faces reflecting curiosity, awe, and celebration. Musicians played instruments that sent ripples of harmonics through the hall, soft yet powerful, like echoes of the stars themselves. Empress Seraphine sat at her throne, her presence commanding yet warm. She looked at Aaron and Lyra, her gaze full of approval. Beside her, high officials and counselors stood respectfully, some nodding in acknowledgement, others still observing quietly. The air was filled with anticipation. Aaron and Lyra walked side by side toward the central platform. He felt the weight of the moment, but also the support of the people around him. Every step felt meaningful. He remembered the first day he had arrived, when he was an outsider, a stranger in a strange world. Now he was no longer a visitor. He was part of this world. He was trusted, honored, and accepted. The Empress raised her hand, signaling the beginning of the ceremony. "Today we unite not only two souls but two worlds. Commander Aaron Vale, citizen of Sci-Fi, step forward and take your place beside the princess." Aaron bowed deeply to the Empress, then turned to face Lyra. She returned the gesture gracefully. The attendants approached, presenting symbols of their bond. A pair of ceremonial rings made of pure crystal, glowing faintly, and a braided cord woven from threads of starlight. These symbols represented trust, unity, and shared destiny. The officiant spoke, his voice echoing clearly through the hall. "By the laws of Sci-Fi and by the witness of all present, you stand here to declare your commitment to one another. Do you accept this bond freely, without hesitation, and with honor?" Aaron looked into Lyra's eyes. He saw courage, trust, and a reflection of the man he had become over the past weeks. He nodded firmly. "I do. I accept this bond freely, with honor, and with all my heart." Lyra smiled softly, her voice clear and steady. "I do. I accept this bond freely and with all my heart." The attendants placed the rings on their fingers and tied the braided starlight cord around their hands. The light from the cord pulsed softly, spreading warmth through the hall. Aaron felt a sense of completeness he had never known. This was no longer just duty or bravery. This was connection, trust, and a promise shared between two beings from different worlds. The Empress spoke once more, her voice both gentle and firm. "By the authority of Sci-Fi and by the witness of all present, I declare this bond sealed. May it bring strength, honor, and unity to both your lives and to the worlds you represent." The hall erupted in cheers. Music rose, filling every corner with sound and light. The citizens clapped, some waving glowing banners, others tossing soft petals of luminescent flowers into the air. The celebration was joyous, vibrant, and alive, yet it retained a dignity that matched the grandeur of the palace. Aaron and Lyra stepped down from the platform hand in hand. The people parted respectfully, bowing or nodding in acknowledgement. Aaron could feel their curiosity, their admiration, and their cautious hope for what this union might bring. He realized then that his role had changed entirely. He was no longer just a hero. He was a bridge between humanity and Zephyria. After the formalities, the Empress invited them to the banquet hall. The room was vast, with tables of food that shimmered with colors and aromas unlike anything Aaron had experienced. Dishes made from exotic fruits, glowing grains, and rare proteins were arranged in artful displays. The music shifted to a celebratory rhythm, and laughter and conversation filled the air. Aaron found himself seated beside Lyra, their hands brushing lightly as they moved through the meal. He noticed how naturally she carried herself among her people, commanding respect while remaining approachable. He felt proud to stand beside her, yet humbled by the trust she had placed in him. Throughout the evening, nobles and officials came to congratulate him. Some were curious, asking about his life on Earth and his experiences among humans. Aaron answered honestly, sharing stories of courage, strategy, and human values. He noticed that many were genuinely impressed, especially when he spoke of empathy, teamwork, and the willingness to act for others without seeking reward. By the end of the night, the festivities reached their peak. The palace's central atrium opened to the night sky, revealing a view of Ziphar's twin moons. Lanterns floated gently into the air, carrying soft light and messages of goodwill from the citizens. Aaron and Lyra stepped onto the balcony holding hands, watching the display in quiet awe. "You did it," Lyra said softly. "You have earned your place here. Not just with courage, but with your heart." Aaron shook his head slightly. "It was not just me. You, the Empress, the people. I could not have done any of this alone. You taught me, guided me, and trusted me. That is what made all the difference." Lyra smiled, brushing her hand against his. "And now we face the future together. We will face challenges, yes, but we will do it side by side." Aaron nodded. He looked out at the city, the palace, and the countless stars beyond. Humanity and Zipharia had been brought together in ways neither could have predicted. The bonds of trust, courage, and respect that he had forged would be remembered for generations. As the night deepened, the celebration slowly quieted. Citizens returned to their homes and the palace settled into a peaceful rhythm. Aaron and Lyra walked through quiet corridors, sharing words, laughter, and stories. The world outside was vast and unknown, but within these walls they had found a home, a purpose, and each other. In the days that followed, Aaron took his place formally among the Zipharian people. He was no longer an outsider or a soldier only bound by duty. He was a citizen, a protector, and now the partner of the princess. He continued to learn, to advise, and to act in ways that strengthened the bond between humanity and Zipharia. Lyra and Aaron's partnership grew stronger every day. Together they explored the complexities of court life, the responsibilities of leadership, and the joys of discovery in a world filled with beauty and wonder. Their bond was not built on wealth, power, or ceremony alone, but on shared trust, courage, and the understanding that they were stronger together. Aaron often found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. From a routine patrol in human space, through battles, trials, and the challenges of an alien culture, he had arrived at a life filled with purpose and meaning. And while the road ahead would hold new challenges, he felt ready, not just as a hero, but as a partner, a citizen, and a bridge between two worlds. As the twin moons of Zephyr rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the palace, Aaron and Lyra stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The night was quiet, peaceful, yet filled with possibility. Aaron took a deep breath. "We have a long journey ahead, Lyra. Challenges, responsibilities, and discoveries I cannot yet imagine." Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. "And we will face it together. With courage, respect, and trust, there is nothing we cannot overcome." Aaron looked into her eyes, and for the first time since leaving Earth, he felt completely at peace. He was home, not just in a place, but in a purpose, in a bond, and in a world that had accepted him fully. The stars above shone brightly, and Aaron knew that humanity's story in the galaxy had just begun. But for now he stood with Lyra, united, honored, and ready to embrace a future that stretched beyond the stars.